Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good whatever time it is, wherever you are, whoever you are. Welcome once again to Nerd Week Live, the show in which we, the folks at Nerd Caliber, talk about nerd news over the past week. Since our last show last Tuesday, I'm Rodney Brown. I am the editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber, very slowly recovering from PAX East, and also known as First Person Shooter, as a cosplay photographer on Facebook and Instagram, Burley_adopter on Twitter, Burley Adopter on a couple of other places, and so on. Before we get into tonight's news, we will do like we usually do, and that is do a little quick promo about our Twitch stream. So we stream this show on Facebook Live, on YouTube, and on Twitch every Tuesday night, pretty much every Tuesday night. And we're trying to build our audience on Twitch. We'd love to have you join us there if you do have a Twitch account. That's the URL there on your screen right now, twitch.tv/nerdcaliber. That is, again, twitch.tv/nerdcaliber. So please join us. All right, we're going to jump right into our first topic. And not that we have a ton of them, but the first one involves that classic, semi-classic, 1970 Disney animated movie, The Aristocats. And the news is that Academy Award-winning documentarian and leader of the band The Roots, Questlove, has decided that his first feature film is going to be a reimagining, as they call it, of the Aristocats in a fairly typical Disney reimagining structure that we've seen recently. In other words, it is a combination live action and CG hybrid. They don't make it clear in the article exactly what that means. I'm assuming that means that the human characters in the movie are going to be played by human actors. And the cats will be probably very realistic looking CG cats. If you're not familiar with the Aristocats, basic story is that there's a family of felines that are, in this case, in the original, it's set in Paris, whose owner is passed away and is about to give all of his wealth to the cats. His or her, I can't remember, so we'll say there. The owner's butler is incredibly jealous, wants the money, kidnaps the cats, and basically abandons them in the French countryside. They team up with this, smooth-talking, very, very jazz-influenced tomcat, who will try to escort them back into the city. And it's a lot of fun. Some great voice acting back then, and I'm assuming they're going to have fantastic voice acting in the update. They're calling this a reimagining, so I doubt that it's going to be like one-on-one. Luminous, welcome to the show. Hello all, a great time was had at PAX East. Certainly great, exhausting, but great time by me. And it was great chatting with you as always. It's been quite a while since I've seen you in person. So that was wonderful. Just added to some of the things that made the entire show great. I don't know what the imagining is. The title, I'm assuming, is still going to be the Aristocats. So one assumes that the cats are going to be wealthy, or from a wealthy owner or family of some sort. How that then changes, whether they change the location to move it from, say, Paris to Questlove's native Philadelphia, or what, we'll have to see as more information about this gets out. By the way, if you are any kind of a fan of late 60s, early 70s, soul, just beginning, burgeoning funk, gospel, etc. music, and you haven't seen Questlove's Academy Award-winning documentary, Summer of Soul, about the 1969 Harlem Cultural Festival, watch it. It is beautiful. The footage that they found and restored, and it's some of the most amazing live performances of that kind of music I've seen and heard in a long, long time. And done really well with wonderful, wonderful firsthand experiences of people who were very young at the time. of that concert and what it's meant to them over the years and so on. It's a great, and interviews with many of the performers as well, the ones that are still with us. So yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. I can't recommend it highly enough. It was one of my favorite movies of let's see, he won last year, so of 2021. Just wonderful. But anyway, so yeah, Questlove. I'm hoping it doesn't mean he's going to have to take a sabbatical from leading the house band, The Roots, at Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. But I don't watch it that much, so it doesn't really bother me that much. I would much more be interested in, or I am much more interested in seeing the results of his work in making this adaptation of the Aristocats. Just announced it, no idea when it's going to happen. So we'll stay tuned. We'll give you more information as we get it. I'm guessing 2025 at the earliest, but we'll let you know. All right, moving on to our next topic. We got to do an update on this because it's in the news. This is, of course, a clip from Rick and Morty. The voice of Rick Sanchez is Justin Roiland. The news is that the Orange County District Attorney's Office has dropped the domestic violence charges against Roiland. Because, as the spokesperson said, we dismissed the charges today as a result of having insufficient evidence to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. Does that mean Roiland is innocent? No. The determination of guilt or innocence would have happened if there was a trial. Does that mean Roiland is guilty? I don't know. I believe victims, certainly after the Me Too movement and the demonstration of literally almost every single person who's ever come forward with a claim like this is in fact making an honest claim. But there won't be a trial. Roiland then went on to his Twitter and then he had written up a piece, and above that he just wrote justice. And technically that's not justice. Technically it might be relief. If it was justice, he would pursue a lawsuit against the woman who had accused him. And it would go to trial, and everything would come out, and it would be justice. And of course, he says that I'm disappointed that so many people were so quick to judge without knowing the facts. All of the facts were laid out in the felony arrests. Based solely on the word of an embittered ex trying to bypass due process and have me, quote, canceled. He used the canceled word. Doesn't matter to me what else he's going to say. I'm not going to listen to it. Anybody who uses the cancel justification for blaming somebody else for what happened in your life, you're just wrong. It doesn't make you believable in any way, shape, or form. Luminous, maybe there will be a civil trial. I believe that only requires a preponderance of the evidence. So that would entail the person who is the alleged victim to actually pursue a civil trial against Roiland. And while it doesn't say so in this article, my guess is one of the reasons why the DA's office believes they cannot prove this beyond a shadow of a doubt is probably, I don't know this, lack of cooperation by that witness, by that victim. For whatever reason, and if the victim just doesn't want to go through a trial, that's up to them. And if that is the case, they certainly aren't going to want to go through a civil trial. He was arrested 3 years ago, January of 2020. The case was partially sealed, which is why we didn't know about it until this last May. He was charged with 2 felony counts, and he was then, months later, handed a protective order forcing him to stay away from the alleged victim. and have no contact and to not harass said victim. Smoke, fire, make your own judgment. I haven't seen in the searches that I've done today, just a couple hours before going live, whether or not this has changed his status as being essentially dropped by Hulu for his own series Solar Opposites, being dropped by Adult Swim for Rick and Morty. Whether they will bring him back on any of those, I don't know. But, if they do, we'll let you know. It would be pretty important, particularly for fans of Rick and Morty, for that news to get out there. But, yeah. So Roiland is no longer going to be facing those charges. And I'm not going to call out this site by name, but a fairly large nerd site used the headline "cleared of charges." And after I pointed that out in their chat, they did change that headline and the tweet that they had sent out about it. Not the tweet, because you can't change a tweet. I can't remember what the post was. Facebook or Instagram or something. Charges dropped and cleared of charges are two completely different legal outcomes. The editor should have known better. All right. Moving on to our next bit of news, and it is, again, not really great news. This is, of course, a screenshot from The Witcher 3. The news is about the planned Witcher game that was only known as Project Sirius, or I guess I should say is only known as Project Sirius, and how CD Projekt is, quote, reevaluating this game, which was being made by Boston-based game studio, the Molasses Flood. They announced in a announcement sent out to investors, and which one of the investors or somebody who got a hands on it apparently posted up on Twitter very quickly, that the company would be taking, quote, an impairment charge against the development of the game up to this point. And it's the article here in IGN points out an impairment charge is filed by a business to write off assets that have dropped in value or been lost completely. According to this post or this announcement sent to the investors by CD Projekt, that between 2022 and the first 2 months of 2023, they are writing off. This is in the Polish currency, but it comes out to almost $10 million. They're writing off $10 million worth of investment in this Project Sirius, and particularly in Molasses Flood. Harry Brady, welcome to the show. IGN reached out to them, and they have said that the game is not, the Project Sirius, is not scrapped altogether. But they also said that, quote, our current focus is ensuring that Project Sirius is aligned with the strategy of the CD Projekt Group. At this point, we are neither providing insight into the evaluation of the project nor the potential future frameworks thereof. In other words, don't ask us, we ain't gonna say nothing. So the game was at first assumed to be a mobile game because the way they described it when it was first announced back in October, that it was supposed to bring the Witcher universe to an audience that wasn't used to playing RPG games and wasn't that familiar with the RPG series or the RPG series of games. So the Molasses Flood has two games out in the land out there right now: The Flame and the Flood and Drake Hollow. And while the general concept of what's going on in each game is different, the structure is sort of the same. They are both survival, horror-tinged, gathering resources, community building type of game. Think of a much graphically simpler Conan Exiles or something like that. So it is a safe assumption to guess that maybe what was being worked on was something like that. A slightly graphically, or maybe even majorly graphically, toned down survival, resource gathering, community development kind of game. survival spooky Stardew Valley, or Animal Crossing sort of thing. Um, and maybe ultimately CD Projekt looked at that and went, yeah, no, this really does not align with what we want to do with the Witcher stuff. Um, Maybe they're going to keep going. Maybe the Molasses Flood has not let go any of the people that they hired. They have been hiring since that announcement back in October. So fingers crossed that's the case, and fingers crossed that CD Projekt is going to continue investing us. Writing off $10 million means that $10 million is gone. They're not going to try to get it back. But we'll have to see whether or not Molasses Flood is going to continue to be developing something for CD Projekt that is connected to the Witcher universe. As a fan of a bunch of people who work in the Boston game development community, I really hope so. Had I been thinking about this, I probably should have poked a few brains of some people I know in the industry while I was at PAX East. Kind of would have been the right place to do it. My bad for not thinking about it. But again, fingers crossed that Molasses Flood is continuing to work on this, and there will be some sort of game coming out. And this is just a fairly expensive shift in direction for what's going to happen with this game. All right, moving on to our next topic. We don't talk a lot about anime on here, even though I'm a big anime fan. But they just announced season 3 of ReZero, and I had to talk about that. So season 2 ended January 2021, or started airing, so it would have ended in March, the end of the winter season of 2021. The series ReZero Starting Life in Another World is based on a series of ongoing web novels that have also been translated into light novels. And there's a manga spin-off, and of course now we've had the anime starting all the way back in April 2016. But the announcement came from Kadokawa, the Japanese publisher, because I'm assuming Kadokawa publishes the novels. And I'm pretty sure is one of the major investors in the production company behind the anime. It is a really innovative, creative, at times pretty tough and brutal fantasy world. It's an isekai, another world, and the main character, the guy in the tracksuit there, Subaru, is transported into another world, just not reincarnated, just literally transported. He's wearing the tracksuit he was wearing when he went to go out and get some snacks. When he gets in the world, he's actually holding the bag from the convenience store. And it's his exploration of what power isn't the right word, ability he has and how it can affect him and the people around him, and he gets caught up in the life of this half-elf, silver-haired half-elf here, Amelia, who, among other things, is one of the contenders to be the next ruler of the kingdom of Lagunica. And they put out a teaser trailer for this, and it is awesome. If you're any kind of a fan of ReZero and you haven't seen the teaser trailer, go watch it. It is just epic. Beautiful, cinematography, absolutely fantastic return of characters we haven't seen at all in season 2. From what I understand, I haven't read the web novels or the light novels. From what I understand, this season is going to adapt 2 arcs 5 and 6, which are described by fans as both, first, one of the most exciting and action-packed, and second, one of the most terribly brutal in the entire series. So, knowing how brutal this series has already become at moments, I'm very much looking forward to that, and kind of trepidatious. They can really put the screws to you with this series. So, but it's also fantastically written. If Japan had this term, Subaru basically starts off as an incel. And his growth out of that into himself over the course of the 2 seasons and 2 movies that have been out is absolutely fantastic. Wonderful, well-written character development. It's a lot of fun. It's a great, exciting series. It can be very funny at times. It's really worth watching. And I'm very glad we've got season 3 coming out sometime. That was one of the things about the announcement, is they just didn't say when we were going to get season 3. It's going to happen maybe this year. Given the length of time between season 1 and season 2, I would doubt it. But now, fingers crossed that it's like end of this year and not middle of next year, which is probably what it's going to be. But yes, if you haven't seen it and you're a fan, go check it out. It's absolutely fantastic anime, and this teaser trailer will make you very excited for season 3. All right, this is a screenshot from the subject of our next story, the reboot of Clone High, which was a pretty huge hit back in the day on MTV. It is coming to HBO Max. It is bringing back the executive producers Phil Lord and Chris Miller of Into the Spider-Verse fame, and Bill Lawrence. The 3 of them were the original creators of the series. It is bringing back many of the original voice cast. Will Forte as Abe. So the idea is that somebody clones all of these famous people throughout history, and we get to meet them while they are in high school. So Abe, of course, the tall guy to the left there, Abe Lincoln. Will Forte is coming back. Nicole Sullivan as Joan, the redhead. It's Joan of Arc. So Phil Lord will be Scudworth. I'm not sure who that person is. I never watched the original. But Chris Miller is coming back as the voice of JFK. Pretty obvious who in that picture is JFK. And also he does the voice of somebody named Mr. B. Krista Miller, who was the voice of Cleo, which is the one with the Cleopatra haircut, is going to be the voice of a new character called Candide Sampson. And Cleo is going to be voiced by Iranian-American actor Mitra Juhari. New to the cast are either end are Frida, all the way over there to the left, clearly Frida Kahlo, Vichy Martinez, and then all the way over to the right is Kelvin Yu as the voice of Confucius. I'm assuming that's supposed to be Confucius over there to the right. The only person who who looks Asian in the entire cast. This was really popular, wildly satirical, and I like the idea. I haven't seen the original. I think I've seen like one episode. I think I'm going to like this, particularly knowing that Lord and Miller were the ones behind it. I may even wind up going back and watching some of the previous, the MTV version, if I can find them streaming somewhere. But this will be streaming on HBO Max, and the news also is that it will be streaming starting sometime this spring. They didn't put an actual date or even a month, but that means that sometime from like right now until mid-June is when we're going to see it drop. So I'm looking forward to it. Again, Lord and Miller involved. Yeah, sign me up. I had no idea that they were involved in this originally. And now that I see what they've done with Into the Spider-Verse, yeah, I'm a big fan. If even a hint of the humor in either Spider-Man Noir or, of course, Spider-Ham winds up that kind of humor in this, yeah, that's a win for me, definitely. So sometime this spring, if you're a fan of the original or of Lord and Miller's work like I am, and want to check out the new version, check it out. All right, so we have some good news. I wanted to do an update on Jeremy Renner. Here he is, of course, as the original Hawkeye in the Hawkeye series with, of course, Kate Bishop, who is the new Hawkeye, or will be the new Hawkeye, or anyway. In the comics, they are both Hawkeye. Um, and the news is that Jeremy Renner posted a video just the other day of him doing his physical therapy on what's called an anti-gravity treadmill. It's more accurately should be called a weight assist treadmill. But basically, it's a big boxy treadmill that has a framework that supports your weight up to the point where you can actually develop muscle tone and return muscle tone to damaged limbs and rehabilitate damaged limbs by letting the machine let you use more and more of your own weight. In the video, he's talking to someone who I'm assuming is his physical therapist or one of his physical therapists, and he says something like he thinks he's about maybe 40% of his body weight. You can see he's atrophied a lot of muscle. He's got chicken legs, but he's got legs. That's the important thing, and they work. And knowing this guy, I'm assuming he's going to put in all of the work he needs to get those legs back to whatever level of 100% he can possibly get. If you're a fan of watching somebody just put out good news, just go check it out. You just took Jeremy Renner treadmill, and I'm sure the video will come up, or articles about it with the video clip and so on. Certainly, if you're a fan of Renner's work in anything, including the MCU or Hawkeye specifically, then yeah, definitely check it out. It's really heartwarming. It's great news. I don't know if there are plans to have him involved in the future of the MCU. There are storylines from the comics where he could be involved in training younger Avengers. That's actually something that's in the comics themselves. So he could, if he wants to continue that, that contract, and Marvel wants him. And that being the case, Godspeed, and keep up the good work, and let's get a fast recovery, Mr. Renner. But do check it out. It's a wonderful. Harry Brady, is Jeremy Renner all right to play Clint Barton again? I wouldn't say, based on this video, Harry, I wouldn't say yet. If he's on a treadmill that only allows him to walk if 60% of his body weight is being supported by this device, then no. Not without putting him in a wheelchair and then having to try to write something around that. When he might be, I don't know. My guess is probably not for a year. Physical rehabilitation, physical therapy takes a lot of time, particularly if 30 plus bones in your body, ribs and leg bones, were crushed by a large snowcat caterpillar driven vehicle. It's going to take him a long time. Will he be ready for Avengers, Kang Dynasty, and Secret Wars, or even a Young Avengers, assuming they actually do a Young Avengers at some point? I'd like to think so, because that's not going to happen for at least a year, probably 2. And of course, we know that the last of Phase 6 are scheduled for 2026, I think. So. Yeah, he's got time to do it. Let's put it that way. I don't think anybody's writing anything right now that has to jam Hawkeye into it. So fingers crossed he'll be back, as fast as he can. And he looks like he's definitely putting the work in. All right, speaking of the MCU, we now have to get to the last topic, and it's the one that was on the topic. I'm going to throw up a content warning. This is about assault, possibly domestic assault. They're trying to paint it very much that it might not be, but with no details on the assault at all, or very minimal. And I will only mention what the police has mentioned, which is just a very minimal description, of some damage. The news is, of course, you've all seen it. Jonathan Majors was arrested, charged with assault, or arrested for assault, and has then, since just the other day, been charged with harassment and assault by New York City District Attorney. So Saturday morning, the police were called on what the police report defines as a domestic dispute between a 33-year-old male and a 30-year-old woman in the Chelsea neighborhood of Manhattan. Officers, and this is also a quote from the NYPD, officers placed the 33-year-old male in custody without incident. The victim sustained minor injuries to her head and neck and was removed to an area hospital in stable condition. Since then, Major's lawyer has gone on to say things like, Jonathan Majors is completely innocent and provably the victim of an altercation with a woman he knows. Woman he knows is not the same thing as a domestic dispute. The police use the term domestic dispute, domestic violence, domestic assault when they are talking about two people who are in a domestic relationship. Obviously, Major's lawyer is trying to make that not seem to be the case. And then this statement was before the arraignment. We are quickly gathering and presenting evidence to the district attorney with the expectation that all charges will be dropped immediately. They went on to say that the woman who alleges the assault has since recanted her written statement. The fact that the New York District Attorney went on to indict him and charge him with multiple accounts. So assault, strangulation, and harassment were the three accounts, or the three counts. The fact that the DA decided to actually press those charges really doesn't seem like the DA is going to drop the charges, as Major's lawyer said. So again, getting back to sort of what we said about Justin Roiland, yes, I believe the victim. Are there extenuating circumstances? Could this have started as the victim, lashing out? Who knows? Does that mean that it's appropriate for Majors to then physically assault that person? Obviously not. I'm pretty sure Majors knows that. And whether or not that did happen, the victim was taken to the hospital at the request of the police. Again, I don't know. This is based solely on the police reports. Who knows what the police have as an agenda, if they have one. Who knows what Majors is actually guilty of, if anything. In addition to that, the question has to be asked, will Majors continue to be Kang? Justin Roiland, once the charges of domestic assault were brought out, was let go from Rick and Morty, which is an Adult Swim property, and that's owned by Warner Brothers Discovery. But he was also let go from his projects at Hulu, including his own series Solar Opposites. And Hulu is, they describe it as Disney Comcast owned. It's majority owned by Disney. It's essentially a Disney product. Marvel is, of course, also owned by Disney. And now the person that they had hung their hat on to be the villain linchpin for the entirety of the next two phases of Marvel has been charged with assault, strangulation, and harassment. Um, if they are being consistent on just the relationship of the charges, then yes, they would let Majors go. Um, Majors is in a much, much more financially precarious situation for Disney than Roiland was with his series Solar Opposites at Hulu. And it's horrible to say that they are doing a cost benefit analysis right now to the possibility of getting rid of Majors, but I guarantee that's what's going on. I doubt very much that anybody is just automatically going, oh, yeah, we did this to Roland, then we'd better do this to Majors. There are a lot of bean counters are sitting around going, okay, what's it going to cost to get him out of his contract, hire somebody else, or rewrite the entire structure, but we've already announced it's called Avengers Kang Dynasties, or Kang Dynasty, so it's going to be Kang. But if they do decide that that cost-benefit analysis lands on the side of, yeah, we should probably get rid of him, they have already built into their structure of their storylines up to this point a solution. The series Loki has already shown that variants don't have to and often don't look at all like the mainline variant that we're used to. In this case, Loki. They don't even necessarily have to be human or humanoid. Alligator Loki. So it's entirely possible that they could just recast Kang and say that the most dangerous evil Kang wasn't the one that was in the quantum realm, wasn't any of them, was not Ramatut, who has appeared, in I'm going to spoil anyway. Isn't any of the other variants that we've seen, let's put it that way, is in fact another variant that, surprise, doesn't look just like Jonathan Majors. It's right there. It can certainly be done. I was going to speculate that it would be Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, but I forgot he's already been cast as Wonder Man. So I can't wait for that series because I really think he's a great actor. But there are plenty of other people. John David Washington. Yeah, I am sticking with black actors because even though they're going to recast, and which means technically they could be any ethnicity or, like I said, not even necessarily human. They could just do the whole thing CG. Replacing a black actor, even though that person may have been replaced for cause, with, say, a white actor is not going to look good, no matter any reason why that replacement happened. So my wheels of thought are all rolling around the possibility of Majors being replaced with somebody who is also a black actor of talent and note. And if he does get replaced, at the level of thinking it's an appropriate reaction, yes, of course. He has been legitimately accused of and now charged with assault, harassment, and strangulation. Get rid of him. I said the same thing about Ezra Miller. Get rid of them. I have no problem with that. I love Jonathan Majors as an actor, and I would be very sad to see, or to not to be able to see what sort of amazing work could come out of Majors as Kang. But I'm also not going to regret it if, in fact, they do decide to replace him. Luminous, I wonder how much vetting studios do these days on high-profile actors. So I would imagine a fair amount. I've not read anything whatsoever about Majors being anything like difficult to work with or violent or anything like that. Then again, I haven't read that about anybody, including Roiland. So, I don't know. I'm assuming they probably did a pretty decent job of vetting them. And it is entirely possible that this was a horrible lapse of intense anger and passion, but it's a lapse. And the fact that he's trying so hard to deny it and cast aspersions on the victim. They even said at one point, his lawyer said that Majors made the call to 911 in an attempt to get the person help for the emotional issues that they were clearly going through. Um, I understand spin, but that's some pretty egregious bullshit right there. So, but again, we don't know. All these are allegations. There seems to be a trial coming up. The longer it's stretched out, the less likely it is, I think, that we're going to see Majors stay around in the MCU. But we'll see. I was doing searches, in this case, right up to the hour before we went online to try to see whether or not there was any newer updates about this, and there isn't anything yet. So I've given you what I know is the latest statements by Major's lawyer, by the police, and so on. So we'll keep you posted. This is a story that is definitely not going to just go away. And it could have huge impacts on, or a huge impact on the MCU going forward. So on that unfortunately down note, that is it for our show tonight. I kind of don't feel like putting up the Patreon thing, so I'll after that. So I'll just say, we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/nerdcaliber. Check it out. Love to have patrons. Helps us get to cons. Blah blah blah. We have been. I've started posting up the first galleries from PAX East. They're up at nerdcaliber.com already. Friday. Part 1 was yesterday, Part 2 today. I'll continue throughout the rest of the week. We'll have galleries from Wonder Llama Photo. We'll have galleries from one of our new team members, our newest team members, Sammy Wong Photography. We'll have video. Video usually takes a few weeks to get posted up, so stay tuned for that on our YouTube channel. We are in 2 weekends. I will be 2 weekends. I'll be at Anime Boston again, working the photo department as assistant photo department manager this year, so that my assistant last year can do basically what she's been training for years to do and step up to the role. So you will probably not see me there, because I'll probably mostly be stuck inside our headquarters, our office. But I do hope to see some of you there as I'm wandering about and et cetera, et cetera. Then Wicked Comic-Con also at the Heinz Convention Center, oddly enough. Gee, I wonder if I can figure out a way to stay for 2 weeks for nothing. I'm sure there's a crawl space I can find somewhere. And then, let's see, after Wicked Comic-Con, I'm not really sure. Greg will be at MegaCon in mid-May. Then there's a lot of other stuff coming up after that. So we'll keep you posted for where we're going to be at further cons going forward. That said, everybody please stay safe. The PAX East had a mask mandate. Almost everybody was very good about wearing their masks. Lumina said, one light piece of news, the Netflix Gamera anime trailer is out. I haven't seen it. Thank you. I'll check that out, and I'll post it up for Netflix Net Weeks. Next week's story topics. But yeah, so people wore masks. That was wonderful. At the end of the day, Sunday, the enforcers were clearly not enforcing much anymore. People were leaving the floor and taking their masks off before they left the building. So there are some shots in the Sunday gallery where people are not wearing masks, because I said that's fine. I'm sitting well more than 6 feet away from you. You are more than 6 feet away from anybody else. Yeah, that's fine. But I still say I'm going to continue wearing a mask. Anime Boston does not have a mask requirement. They have a very strong mask recommendation, but it will not be required. I will be wearing a mask every minute of every day that I am in that building, or even in the hotel, until I'm in my own room. Just don't risk it, folks. It's just stupid. Just wear a mask. Come on. Anyway, that's it, folks. Stay safe. We will see you in an upcoming show or next week's show or both. Thank you all for everybody in the chat. That's always fun.